Now, Sytner is one of the car dealer world's big hitting groups. With a portfolio of luxury and premium new car brands and a high-performing used car supermarket group in its armoury, it's little wonder it's one of the UK's most profitable dealers. Sytner came second in our car dealer top 100 list of the most profitable dealer groups. In 2019, it made 152 million on turnover of nearly £6 billion. But how did they do it? What makes this group nearly twice as much money as the third place dealer group Pendragon? Well, to find out, I've popped up to the group's Jaguar Land Rover dealership here in southwest London to meet boss Darren Edwards. He's going to show me around this dealership and tell me what makes the group so successful. Darren, thank you very much for showing me around today. It's fascinating to hear about the Sytner business. Firstly, let's start with yourself. Tell me a little bit about how you got into the motor trade.
Okay, yeah, sure. I left school 1984 and started with Perry's as a body shop apprentice, and then I moved into sales about 4 years later with the group, and then moved up to management a few years later, and then I think it was maybe mid-90s, I then moved brands to BMW and did a sort of similar kind of progress, sales, management. And then I think it was probably at the end of the 90s, maybe 99, I then ran my first dealership.
What was that?
That was a BMW dealership,
okay.
in Ruislip, and then which is now a Tesco Metro. And then moved to Milcars in Temple Fortune, which is now a Mercedes-Benz dealership actually. And then moved to Sytner in 2004 as sales director in London, looking after the BMW dealerships at Cheapside, Stratford and Canary Wharf. And then franchise director with the group, looking after BMW alongside Nigel Hurley, who now runs CarShop.
Of course. In
2009, I think that was, and then took over our Audi businesses in 2012 and then CEO in 2014.
So quite a journey, that.
Yeah.
A lot of the people that I chat to in the motor trade have huge admiration for what Sytner does. A lot of people hold you guys up as the ones to follow. What do you think your secret of success is? Is it brand portfolio or is it processes?
I think it's a combination of our strategy has always been to focus on premium brands. So we figure that you get a better return on investment, you can attract a higher quality of people, your team, and we put a lot of investment into places like this to attract good people. And then I think it's the execution. We've got very low staff attrition levels, so our focus is more about developing people rather than recruiting and training people. So if you look at our head of business turnover, it's less than 5%. The board is 0 turnover and has been for many years. Our managers are about 8% and our overall team is less than 15%. So by focusing on our people, by having these great brands, it gives us the opportunity to make great returns for our shareholders, do a brilliant job for our manufacturers, and then you've got this circle of investment. Focus on people, focus on customer, delight your manufacturers, look after your shareholders, and just keep on doing that all the time. And by doing that for, since 1968 when we first started, and really since sort of the early 2000s, which we started to grow, that's given us the opportunity to, continue to grow as we have.
Darren, I would say if I was going to be starting a dealer group and picking some brands, I'd probably have every single one of the ones that you've got in your portfolio. Which are really performing for you at the moment?
Well, they all are actually. I mean, this is a unique year, isn't it? I mean, if you think about the market, it's on fire, both new and used. We have constraints in the microprocessor in some brands. We've had shutdowns in the factories for others, but that just creates fewer cars than the demand. So in terms of return at the moment, it's really, really strong. But the partnerships with all our brands are incredible, really. So I wouldn't single out any one. I think they're all doing a brilliant job, and I hope they think that we're doing a good job for them.
And how Sytner performed during the pandemic? I mean, we reported on some incredible figures for the first quarter of this year. Perhaps you could tell me a little bit about performance.
Yeah, we were delighted with Q1. First of all, I think we learnt an awful lot during the pandemic. Using video technology, able to buy cars online now. We've been doing that since About May last year, we introduced our online platform. So, we can sell cars either in-store, online, or a combination of the both across the whole group, both in CarShop and within the main franchise businesses. So in Q1, we delivered 42,500 cars for new, used and fleet. 10% of those were done online. So either a £99 reservation, or we allowed customers to make a finance application. We now can do guaranteed valuations on their cars. Actually, 70 people paid directly with their credit card using our portal. So, we're now able to do that. So about 10%, about 4,200. So, and then we've got another 9,500 cars which we wholesale through our Sytner auction site, which is all online. And we've had that for about 15 years, I suppose. So, I think all that learning over many, many years of adapting and modifying the way that we go to business, as well as the learnings that we had in the pandemic, meant that we had a very strong Q1. So, yeah, long may it continue into the rest of the year.
And the American ownership, there's clearly some lessons that they've helped teach you over here. And perhaps you can give me some examples of that. I mean, I think that you mentioned earlier, like the drop curbs and the larger parking bays, they must make a difference.
Yeah, we think so. Roger, when he first bought the business, we were a listed company in our own right in the 90s. We caught Roger's attention in 2002 and he acquired us at that point. And since then, we've enjoyed massive investment, both in terms of monetary investment, but also intellectual and operational investment in the early days, certainly. So things like drop curves, drive-through service lane, that's been adopted by the rest of the industry, I think, now in the UK. But that was new back in 2000. And little touches, in terms of making sure that colleague areas are finished to the same standard as customer areas. Yes. And our toilets and our facilities are as good as you'd see in a 5-star hotel. So they're the sort of things that were really brought home by Roger. And even in CarShop, which you could say is a kind of budget brand, it's the same level, same quality you would have seen at Nottingham, I think, when you were there a few weeks ago. It was the attention to detail is just as great as in that business as it is within Sytner. So I think they're the things that we've learned from Roger and the rest of the American team.
The car industry's enjoyed some superb times in the last 12 months, which has come as a big surprise, and especially when you look back to March, that first lockdown. There's been a lot of government support, hasn't there? Furlough, retail rates help. Do you think the industry should be looking at that money as the company's been given and possibly paying some of it back?
Well, I guess when we think back to that period of time, the industry was worried about even whether it would be able to pay the bills and stay liquid. So that money was vital to us. It allowed us to keep people employed. I mean, we topped up the pay over and above. At the time, our board, we didn't mention this to anybody at the time, but we took a 20% pay reduction, and no one had a bonus in Q1 or Q2. So we thought we acted sensibly and responsibly at the time. Since then, that support we used for a short period of time, but it was significant. We're a large group. We had 9,500 people on furlough for a good couple of months. But in terms of what we're doing now is we're focused on investment. So, places like this opened up at the beginning of the pandemic. Since then, we've opened up 5 or 6 other large dealerships. So we're still investing millions in premises, in training. We've got about 100 vacancies at the moment for apprentices. So for us now, it's about looking forward rather than thinking about paying back. And ultimately, every large corporation is going to be paying more tax, as the government announced. So, we'll be paying more tax than we would have done had this pandemic not come along, and more tax had we not had the support. So my view is now all about looking forward, all about investing for the future.
Yeah. So Darren, used cars are clearly very important to Sytner, and the CarShop team has joined the fold in recent years. Perhaps you could tell me a little bit about how that came about and how it's working.
Sure. Well, we were at the point where we wanted to sort of grow the company, wanted to diversify. We were happy with the brand mix that we had. We didn't really want to get into the volume new car side of the business, but clearly the used car business is huge, massive, 8 million unit market. So we wanted a bigger piece of that. And so we started to look at different options in the US and the UK. CarShop in the UK came to our attention. It's a great business. I think Jonathan and the team had done a brilliant job. We were very happy when they agreed for us to acquire them. and they helped us, kind of understand the business for the first 3 years or so. Nigel's now running that business and doing a great job. In a normal year without a pandemic, we think off the 12 sites we now have, we should do 60,000 units, and the EBT contribution is significant. So I'm looking to grow that over the next few years, as Nigel's already said. So massively important. It's probably the biggest area of growth for us and investment over the next 4 or 5 years.
What are your thoughts on the likes of people like Cazoo and Cinch that are coming into this marketplace, trying to disrupt this industry? I mean, what are your thoughts on those people?
Well, I think, look, if I look at this car market, you've got roughly 2 million new, maybe 8 million used. It's 10 million cars. It's a lot of transactions happening every year. And in that industry, you've got people making a great living, from sole traders selling 4 or 5 cars a month to companies like us with 6 billion turnover, 220,000 cars a year. The scale of it is huge. And so I think there's a place for everybody. And, as far as I'm concerned, good luck to them. They've got a lot of capital very quickly. They think they've got a unique model. I think that's probably changed over the last year. Our view probably is that with our business, particularly in used cars, we want to appeal to everybody and not just online customers. So, that's why we've got the online ability, the in-store ability, and a combination of the two. So from our point of view, we appeal to 100% of the customers out there, and the online guys are, they are probably appealing to a certain point. Now that will grow over time, but from our point of view, we'd still rather be appealing to everybody all of the time. So be interesting to see how they go, particularly now with the US investment. Good luck. I mean, good luck to them. There've been lots of entrants into this market. Some have made it, some haven't. We'll see.
You're clearly investing huge sums of money into amazing dealerships like this. You clearly think the future has got a combination of the two. Yes. What percentage do you think of car sales in, say, 5 years' time are going to be online or in a dealership like this?
It's hard to say. I mean, the pandemic has definitely accelerated the situation. And, if you think about our Q1, 10% roughly were transacted online. Clearly that's going to grow as younger people who are used to buying things online come out of university, out of school, and have income and start buying cars. That's inevitable. So maybe it's going to be double, 20, 25%. But I still think there's a huge amount of people that are living today that still like to come and have a look at a car in a showroom, test drive it before they make a decision. So, places like this where you can see the whole range and experience great service are still very relevant, and we're going to continue to invest in those at the same time as investing in our online capability and making sure, as I said earlier, we appeal to everybody and not just one part of the population.
What went through your mind when the pandemic struck last year, and what did you have to change immediately to cope?
Well, if you remember, kind of mid-March, we started to realise there was a pending problem that we're going to have to deal with. I think you actually covered it at the time. Ourselves, maybe Arnold Clark, I think went early in announcing we were going to close. We were going to get a lot of feedback. We were getting a lot of feedback from our colleagues and customers. So we decided to close, and then the government announced. At that point, I think a few people in our industry know that I had broken my hip, so I was at home anyway on Zoom constantly. So actually we had a bit of a head start in terms of managing our business over Zoom. And it was relentless. Calls at midnight. What do we do next? How do we manage it? Very quickly, we had to work out how to get 9,500 people furloughed. Communication with those people was absolutely vital. Yeah. So, that was our first priority, actually, was making sure everyone felt connected still. So the people that were working, we had about 500 people still working, giving them all the technology to working from home. Our contact centres were working from home, installing all the software and the hardware, making them seamlessly be able to answer phone calls, writing to customers. And then once we got a nice kind of communication link going on with our team, it was about keeping that fun aspect that makes Sytner so special, I think. So the summer we had was amazing, wasn't it? So we were very fortunate. Lots of videos being sent around the business through Yammer, which is our internal kind of Instagram feed. And then once that was ready, it was about how do we open again. Mm-hmm. So we took the decision to open the work. We had about 15 workshops open anyway for key workers. And then it was opening up the rest of the workshops in May, and then the showrooms in June. So, thank God for Zoom and Microsoft Teams, because without those two pieces of software, it would have been very difficult. But they're here to stay now. We manage our business very much in terms of best practice sharing and the ability to kind of remove the dispersion between the best and the worst performers, sharing best practice. It's been remarkable. So it was tough, but we learned a lot, and now we're a stronger company for the benefit of it, really.
So Dan, what about local lockdowns? Do they worry you? Clearly the Indian variant seems to be taking hold a little bit. There's more and more talk now about that possibly being a way of tackling it. You've probably got dealerships in areas that would be affected by it. Do local lockdowns worry you?
No, not really. If you think about last year, the first local lockdown was in Leicester. We had about 10 dealerships, which we had to very quickly work out what to do. So no, I think we're now geared up. I mean, in October, when we had the full lockdown, our mantra was, we heard about the slowdown during the lockdown, we chose not to take part. And we set the team targets to hit their personal bests in sales and after sales. And most of the dealerships did that. So, and Q1, as we've already spoken about, was very successful for us. So if there are any local lockdowns, we just revert back to that way of operating that we did in the main lockdowns in the previous lockdown. So it doesn't concern me. I think we'll be okay.
And how's Sytner going to grow in the future? Is it an acquisitive company, or is it growth organically via the brands that you already have?
Well, it's a good question. I think for many of the brands that we have, we're now at the upper threshold of what they like us to have. There is opportunity with some of them to grow, but we're very choosy now. We've been very picky over the years. We've divested of a number of brands and dealerships over the last 10 years or so to end up with what we've got today. And it's more about, getting the most out of those businesses. That said, we've got Ferrari opening up in Glasgow later this year. We've taken on Bugatti in Manchester, two great brands. We're already number one representative for Ferrari. We've got 4, so we go to 5. So I think, when we've got really good opportunities to grow with the brands, we will. But our main growth now is CarShop. It's about taking a bigger share of that market, growing a national brand, national footprint, and of developing that online presence. So for us at the moment, that's the main focus.
And what about multi-franchising? What are your thoughts on this? Robert Forrester recently told me that he thinks with premium brands, this really could take off. That seems to be the makeup of most of your portfolio. What are your thoughts on it?
I think, look, who knows what's going to happen in the future, but if you look at the next year or two, I can't really see the likes of BMW and Mini wanting to partner with another brand that's outside of their portfolio. If you look at someone like Volkswagen Group, clearly that works. And we've already got dual branding with Ferrari Maserati. We've got Bentley and Lamborghini. We've got Rolls-Royce and McLaren. So where it works, we're already operating multi-franchising. But I think for the big 3 premium brands, I think they would struggle with allowing us to represent. But, things change. So, and if they do, we'll adapt. But it could be good. More brands under the same roof helps to cover the overhead. We've seen that with Bentley and Lamborghini, for instance. But for the mainstream premium brands, I think it'll be a struggle for them to cope with that.
And does the semiconductor crisis worry you at all? I mean, it's obviously having an impact on the new car market already. It looks like it's going to get worse. It could have a flip for the used car market and push prices up, which will obviously benefit you. What are your thoughts on semiconductors issue?
Yeah, I mean, when new car supply goes short, as it is at the moment, that tends to help dealer profitability because there's more confidence about, not oversupply, margins improve. So on the one hand, you get the benefit of that, unless it becomes too short, clearly, and that starts to constrain gross profit, particularly on F&I income. If you're not selling the car, you're not going to get the finance income. But the more worrying aspect for me is the lack of part exchanges that you don't bring in. So we're currently investing in more buyers. We've been doing that since about September of last year to try and make sure that we can continue to buy those cars from the open market, the ones that we won't be able to get from PXs. So for me, it's more about the knock-on effect of not having the new cars to the used car supply chain. But it's the area that we're really focused on.
Would you say that's an element of your success, or a large part of your success is the fact that you've managed to utilise these fantastic part exchanges that probably come in from people buying a new Land Rover, and pushing it into the used car model that you have.
Yes.
Is that why you make the big bucks?
Well, I think it certainly helps. You know, our ratio used to new is significantly more than most dealer groups. You know, if you look at our stock holding at the moment, in CarShop we've got 8,000 cars advertised. You know, that's more than Cinch, Cazoo, and Carzam added together currently. Then you add on top Agnew's, which is another couple of thousand. Then you add on Sytner, which is about 8,000 or 9,000. So we've got a lot of cars currently for sale, and a lot of those cars are generated from part exchanges, which we then either feed into the used car business or into CarShop. So CarShop now I think is receiving about 300 to 400 cars a week from the Sytner business. So that's a nice, secure income stream for them. And you know, the group buying team adds to that as well. So, and then you've got each dealership focused on buying cars as well. They've all got targets to meet in terms of self-generated cars as well. So maximising the amount of used cars that we can buy. There's an old adage, you can't sell empty spaces. So we're always focused on that, really.
And what's business been like since the reopening on April the 12th? And has it taken you by surprise?
Yeah, I mean, I have to admit, I thought it was going to be good. I didn't realise it was going to be quite so good. I think, you know, some of that luck we generated with having enough used cars, definitely. But overall, it's been much stronger. The after-sale side of things is a bit tricky in some of the brands because of the service schedules and the MOT being pushed out. But the sales business is more than compensated for that.
So what do you think the rest of this year will look like? And I mean, are you on course for a record year?
I hope so. All this effort should come with something at the end of it. So, but it's too early to say really. But yeah, based on current projections, it's looking really good. I think, you know, Roger on the earnings call mentioned that we were going to deliver about 14,000 cars in April. We ended up delivering nearly 16,000. So, you know, it was, and we were up something like 45–50% on order take during that period. So I'm not saying that's going to continue, but if it does, clearly that will give us a great performance for the rest of the year.
And I hear Sytner's going to be partnering with Goodwood this year. I mean, that's quite a move. How important do you think promoting your brand is over the brands that are above your showroom doors? Well,
that's again, really interesting question. You know, we've had this dilemma for many years. You know, in the early days when we had Sytner as one business and we started to grow and we acquired Guy Salmon and Greypool and other brands, you know, they're brands in their own right. So do we convert them all into Sytner? When UAG, as it was known, United Auto Group, rebranded as Penske Automotive Group in 2007, you know, the question was asked then. But at the moment, we think, you know, there's a job to be done to promote the Sytner Group culture and brand within the industry, because that we can attract people. And then there's a job to be done promoting our trading brands like Guy Salmon and and Greypool and Sytner, the BMW main brand as well. So I think there's a job to be done, and then we work with these manufacturers that we represent to make sure that we promote their products and their brands in the local community. So I think it's a kind of three-pronged approach, really.
It must make the job quite complicated, though, and knowing where to invest the money must be a constant challenge.
Yeah, I mean, we're very fortunate. I've got a superb marketing director, Leo, who helps me make those decisions. But yeah, it's a constant conversation about how we market the business. So I guess it's a learning situation at the moment with the online business. Do we focus more on social media? One of our businesses, Rolls-Royce in Sunningdale, has got 130,000 Instagram followers, which is 10 times more than the group. Yeah. So how do you take something like that and then leverage it to the rest of the group? So yeah, look, there's still a lot to be learned, but it's fun whilst we're learning, I think.
So Darren, you also have great success in the wholesale of cars, don't you? We're obviously in a very good used car section here. Tell me a little bit about that wholesale business and how successful that's been.
So we launched Sytner Auction now, which is an online-only platform, about 15 years ago. And that's grown over time. We've got about 10,000 registered traders on that site, and we sell normally about 30-odd thousand cars a year. Actually, we use that link, the amount of cars that we sell through that site is the amount of money that we give to Ben every year. So it's a pound for every car that we sell. So that's been going really well. And then we use a version of that internally to facilitate cars being transferred into CarShop. So that's all now pretty much well automated as well. So it's been very successful. We're actually now looking at how we can leverage that even further. So Very shortly, we're going to allow other traders to list cars on that site. So that will massively increase the number of cars on there. They'll offer similar descriptions, similar quality levels, and we'll manage that, but we're excited about that. So with the world moving to online auctions, as you know, in the likes of BCA and Mannheim and Aston Barclay, we see that as being a potential next platform for us. So it'll be interesting to see how that grows.
Is that a profitable part of the business?
Very, very profitable. You know, we've got the profit on the car, and then we've got the administration fee as well. So the more cars we sell, you know, the more contribution that makes.
And where did the idea for that come from?
I think we were looking at eBay in 2000 or something, and why don't we do that? So, and in the early days, it looked very much like eBay. So yeah, but that was just one of those things, you know, the board at the time looking at opportunities to become more efficient and, you know, make more profit from what we already have. I think that's one thing we always try and do, is look at what do we already do and how we can maximize that. So, you know, things like in the retail side, for instance, you know, looking at paint protection, and we just started looking at wrapping cars, and, you know, we've already got the technology, we've got the skill in training in terms of painting cars. So looking at things like liquid wrapping, you know, that's another area that we can just bolt into the company we're already doing. So I think, you know, it's always looking at what we're already doing and how we can make more from it.
Does it help that you have this software expertise in-house? Because am I right in thinking that the Sytner auction site and your online buying has all been built by yourself?
Yeah, it's all proprietary. You know, we've got a big team in Leicester now. I say that, most of them are now working from home, of course. But yeah, they are responsible for creating these amazing platforms. Andy Orgram, who runs that team for us now, has been with the group for about 15 years. So it's very successful, and I think we can leverage that as we go, you know, as we become more sophisticated. Plus we can learn from others as well, you know, because we're not tied to any one platform, we can then change and adapt based on what we see in the market. So if the market shifts, new ideas come up, we can then take those on board. We're not worried about nicking a great idea.
And Darren, what do you spend the majority of your days doing?
Gosh, at the moment it's being on Zoom, but lately it's been about travelling, getting around to seeing the dealerships, coming and saying hello. So I try and mix my time up between dealership visits, working from home to try and remove the fatigue from travelling to Leicester, and I've got an office in High Wycombe now as well, so no 2 days are the same. You know, lots of manufacturer meetings normally, but yeah, it's quite a varied role. It's quite fun, really. And
people on the outside looking in will look at Sytner, second place in our car dealer top 100 list of most profitable dealers, an amazing result. What would you say is the secret to that success?
I think it's the quality of our team and the great manufacturer relationships we have. So I think having great people inside great premises like this, trained well, focused on customer, doing a great job for our manufacturer, you know, that helps us to create great returns for our shareholders. It's a virtuous circle, you know, that's why we perform the way we do. And as I mentioned earlier, it's about keeping attrition low, so that the training we are doing is about developing skills to a greater level rather than introducing people to how they should do things. So it's more about development rather than kind of induction training. And I think that's a big part of it as well, low attrition. But yeah, basically it's having a great quality of the team. And ultimately, you know, if you look at our leadership, most of these people have all been with the company since they were in sales themselves. They've been through the company and now they're managing the company. So they understand the culture, and therefore they can really inject that culture into new people and people that they're working with. So fundamentally, if you were to underline it, it's people.
And what's next for Sytner over the next 12 months?
Sell more cars, sell more hours, look after our customers, look after our people. You know, that's it really. I think hopefully we're a bit more settled than we've been over the last 12 months. I'm hoping that the semiconductor situation will sort itself out, and it's just, you know, honing what we do, growing CarShop, yeah, that's it really. I think for us now it's about just doing the best job we can with what we've got, and as long as we focus on looking after our people and our customers, we should be okay.
Now, hearing Darren's passion for the motor industry firsthand and his commitment to making Sytner a success has been inspiring. A combination of brilliant brands, a high-performing used car division and an emphasis on training great people have helped it secure an enviable position as one of the most profitable dealer groups. Sytner never really set out to be the biggest or the most profitable, but instead that's come as a result of a good business run by great people. Now, for more videos like this one, log on to cardealermagazine.co.uk and click on the Live tab at the top of the page. I'll see you next time. Thanks for joining me. Goodbye.